All right. So I have to admit that in keeping the mystics as somewhat of a surprise, I'm finding great joy in that. I love surprises. And it makes it really fun then, too, to discern because there are so many mystics. And the mystic for today is Mechtild of Magdeburg. And she is a fascinating human being. The only real records we have of her are from her writings, where she then, in her writings, gives clues about what she was doing, where she was at, and what her background was. She is only recognized as a saint in the local community where she grew up, which was the lowlands in Germany. And she is, to me, she's just fascinating. We're going to take one of her poems today, and her poems are so rich with what we might consider communion, inner dialogue with the beloved. That's really the basis of her experience and her certainty. And you will, I think, greatly appreciate her poem that we're going to use today. It's believed that she was born in 1207 and she lived in Magdeburg. And it is said that she had her first deep mystical experience that is recorded when she was 12. And then they increased and continued from there. Some say she ran away, who knows what the circumstances were, and became a beguine. Now, if you take a look, and again, the history in this time in humanity is a little fuzzy as to what a beguine was or how they came about. But the understanding was that in the lowlands of Germany and parts of northern France and in this whole area, there was a movement of women who didn't want to be vowed nuns, but also didn't want to be subject to all the laws of marrying people they didn't want to marry. And they would escape and live in communities that were entirely religious devoted. So you might think of it like the early Christians choosing to live in community, or any religious sect where they would choose to live in community. And the beguines would do that. They would all come together and they would support each other. They would have something of a religious rhythm, but then they were not bound by vows of poverty and chastity. Isn't that interesting? So the best records reveal to us that while we think they were bound by vows and just not living in a convent, the better records say they actually didn't take vows. They took a commitment to their community, but they did not take vows. So very mysterious. It normally they were of a fair amount of nobility, so they probably brought with them money, maybe even servants and things like that. And they were also highly educated. And one of the things that I love about these seeming renegade women was that they sought to increase their understanding, and they lived lives that had a high degree of mysticism. In fact, if you Google Mechtild, you will find that the word mystic is attached to her name more than anything else, mystic and poet. And so I thought that was amazing. And then another big contribution that the beguines gave to the world was to translate texts into vernacular so that the local people could read in their own language. Not many people knew Latin in Christianity, and Latin was reserved for the priests or those that were esteemed worthy to be transmitters of the meaning. And the beguines actually leveled the playing field. So way 300 years before Luther's movement to bring things into the vernacular, we have these women, the beguines, translating things into the vernacular. In fact, one of Mechtild's most influential works, The Flowing Light of Divinity, I mean, even listen to that name, it's so delicious, was written in Low German, in the German that would have been in Magdeburg. Isn't that amazing? It was written in that. It was translated into Latin, and it is the first mystical work written into German, Mechtild. She was openly critical of religious dignitaries. And for this, she also claimed to have theological insight because of her mystical experiences. Now, can you only imagine a woman, not married, not avowed religious, and having such a strong stance against the structure and such a strong belief in the veracity of her experience? She was very highly criticized. She lived her entire life very highly criticized. Her works weren't burnt. There were threats to burn her works, but they were not burnt. And then when she got older in her life, she joined a monastery in Helfta, a Cistercian monastery. And it's unclear if she actually took vows in her older life or if she just simply lived there and observed everything. But two women that we know very well, that are well known, whether you know them or not, well known from that Cistercian monastery in Helfta, were younger contemporaries of her, Gertrude the Great and her sister, Mechtild, another Mechtild. So Mechtild of Magdeburg is not Gertrude's sister. She's older, and who knows what kind of wisdom Mechtild of Magdeburg infused. She ended up going blind later in her life, so her life was not an easy one, but it seems that she always experienced a very deep communion with the beloved. So inspiring, right? So beautiful. So beautiful. They believe that she did die in the late 1200s, but did live on into her 80s. Maybe there's some ideas that maybe she lived into her 90s. Very, very fascinating human being. So and if you get a chance to Google Flowing Light of Divinity, see if you can find some recordings of some of the phrases. Her recounts of God are so unitive, so unitive. Now, she is a woman of her time. She does believe in heaven and hell. She does believe in these, and she outlines these things in great detail. But if you take her in essence, you will discover that she has just got this very deep grasp and experience of the divine. So here's a little excerpt from that long work, The Flowing Light of Divinity, but it's a poem in and of its own right within that larger work. Let these words just rest upon you from Mechtild this morning. And God said to the soul, I desired you before the world began. I desire you now, as you desire me. And where the desires of two come together, there love is perfected. It continues, how the soul speaks to God. Lord, you are my lover, my longing, my flowing stream, my sun, and I am your reflection. How God answers the soul. It is my nature that makes me love you often, for I am love itself. It is my longing that makes me love you intensely, for I yearn to be loved from the heart. It is my eternity that makes me love you long, for I have no end. I think each one of us could sit with those words and really take in each phrase very deeply. And even if you look at that first part, I desire you, God says, as you desire me, even more, really. but completely is where it's where it's equal. And then when you look at that, the admission of the soul that God is for it the lover, the longing, the flowing stream, the sun, and the awareness. The soul has the awareness that it is God's reflection. Then God answers, my nature makes me love you often. And what's so intriguing about her poetry is that in it, in her revelations, in her experience of God, God gives reasons. I love you often. Why? Because I am love. I love you intensely because I yearn to be loved. I love you long because I have no end. How consoling is that, right? Very powerful, very powerful. So our meditation practice today is going to be the use of the breath. Now, breath, pranayama, is such a powerful tool in pretty much every tradition that I know of. And definitely in some of the older traditions, because breath was seen as the breath of life, which it is. But breath is also something that's readily available to us. We're always breathing. When we stop breathing, we usually stop living, usually, when we stop breathing for an extended amount of time. And so breath lets us touch in on some of the phrases of this communion that she is speaking to us with and about. Breath lets us touch in, touch in, touch in. And when we touch in, we discover the subtlety and the certainty that exists at the center of our being in relation to what we might call the beloved. So what is fascinating about Mechtild and her experiences is you pick up on the subtlety that's happening here, and you pick up on the audacity, the certainty that she has, that it is solid as a rock. It is not that God comes and goes, or has to be sought, or there has to be a lot of meritorious actions, but that she is awakening into the reality that she is the reflection of this God, and this God is eternally loving and longing for her. She is experiencing these. So no wonder she was certain about her theological insights, and no wonder she was ostracized and criticized and oppressed through her entire lifetime. But she probably didn't care. So what we're going to do on the breath is I'm going to bring us into a guided breathing practice. And I'd like you to choose one phrase. I'm going to repeat the phrases. Choose one phrase that is, when we get into the breath, is going to be your phrase that you're going to go deeper with. So one phrase could be on the inhale, I desire you now as you desire me. Another phrase is, you are my longing, I am your reflection. Another phrase is, you are my love, I am your reflection. Or, you are my flowing stream, I am your reflection. So choose one of those phrases. You can use them all if you're able to remember them. And at a certain point, we're going to silently transition into each one of us having our own phrase. And perhaps Mechtild will inspire a complementary phrase that says the same thing but is using your own words. You choose what works for you. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes as I close mine. If you have not already done so, bring your attention to your breath. And notice where the breath seems to arise this morning. Where's the point in your body that the inhale seems to start from, that the body expands from? And bring your attention there. On the exhale, allow yourself to return to this point. Wherever it is, there's no right or wrong. And after the next exhale, pause for a moment in the spaciousness of having let the breath release. And then breathe on the rhythm that I count. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue with the same count, but in silence. And continue with the same count, but pause after each inhale and exhale. And rest for just a moment in the space the space between the inhale to the exhale, the space between the exhale to the inhale. And now let go of the count. And after the next exhale, release all the breath and see how long you can hold yourself without any breath after the exhale. And if you find yourself needing a little sip of air, just take a little in and exhale completely out again. Now let a light move up your spine as you bring the inhale up in the light all the way up to the third eye in the crown. Hold and release. And now we begin breathing the phrase, our phrase. Choose whichever phrase you want, continuing with the breath. I desire you as you desire me. You are my love. I am your reflection. You are my longing. I am your reflection. You are my flowing stream. I am your reflection. And continue in the silence with your phrase. After the next exhale, we begin to bring this meditation to a close. Release your attention to the phrase and to the breath, and notice the way you have inwardly shifted. When you are ready, open your eyes.